Inverse function. Now before starting with inverse function, let us first have a recap of what a function is. As we know, a function which is denoted as f of x is assigned to perform a certain task. You have a set of inputs. The function will perform the task assigned to it and will give the corresponding output. For example, let us take a function f of x which is 2x minus 3. Now for this function, if I have a different input, for example, my input is 4, the corresponding output will be 5, where I am going to substitute this 4 in place of x and get the corresponding output is 5. If my input is 6, my output is going to be 9. If my input is 10, my output is going to be 17. Now, what have I done? I have got a set of inputs for which I have got the corresponding outputs. Now what if I want to undo what I have done? Which means that if my input is 5, my output should be 4. If my input is 9, my output should be 6. If my input is 17, my output should be 10. So now I need to find another machine which will undo what this machine has done and hence will give me this results. Okay, so that is what the inverse function is going to do. It is going to undo what this machine has done. Now before going to that, let's take another example. Let's say I have another function g of x which is x plus 3 upon 2. For different inputs, let's check. If my x is 5, my corresponding output is 4. If my input is 9, my output is 6. If my input is 17, my output is 10. So now let's combine the two functions. For input 4, I was getting output 5. Now if my input is 5, my output is 4. So what this machine g of x is doing, it is undoing what f of x has done. See, take another example. For input 6, my output was 9. If I take this 9 as an input of this machine, my output is 6. And same way for 17. If my input is 17, my output is 10. So I can say g of x is undoing what f of x is doing. So I say that g of x is the inverse of f of x. The inverse function, in short, undoes what the function does. Now let's understand how do we find the inverse of a function. Let's say you have a function f of x is x minus 3 by 2 and you want to find out its functions. Understand the steps. The first step is write y is equal to fx. So your given function x minus 3 upon 2 is equal to y. So you'll write it y is equal to x minus 3 upon 2. Step 2. Swap x with y. So wherever you have your x, you will replace it with your y, and wherever you have your y, you will replace it with your x. Next step, you solve for y. You solve for y. That is what we do, make y the subject. So keep y on one side. Whether left side or right side does not make a difference. You have to just keep y on one side and bring everything else on the other side. So in this case, minus 3, bring it on this side, which will give you 2x plus 3 is equal to y. Clear? Now y is equal to f inverse x. Because we had replaced x with y, so y is equal to f inverse x. So your final answer, f inverse x, is 2x plus 3. Just go through the steps again. First, y is equal to x minus 3 by 2. So the given function is written as y is equal to the function. Swap x and y in the given function and make y the subject. That is solve for y. And the final answer you get when y is your subject, replace y with f inverse x, and that's your answer. Let's check for this function. See, the given function was f of x is x minus 3 by 2. And I want to find out f of 5. So I replaced x with 5 and I got f of 5 as 1 when I solve it. Now for the inverse function, as I told you, my input was 5 and my output was 1. Inverse, my input should be 1 and my output should be 5. So let's check it out. We got f inverse x as 2x plus 3. You replace x with 1, which was the output. So if I say f inverse of 1, replace x with 1, I got f inverse 1 as 5. Let's take one more example. F of x is 8x minus 7. So now as step 1, we will write y is equal to 8x minus 7. Next step, we are going to swap x and y. Once we swap x and y, we will make y the subject. See, in the third step now, we have swapped already in the second step x and y. So we are going to make y the subject. Minus 7 on this side, when it comes, it will become plus 7. So x plus 7 is 8y. And you want y over here, so we will divide by 8 and bring it over here. And then replace y with f inverse x. So we have f inverse x is x plus 7 by 8. Now I want you all take any value for x and check out your answer. You can take your own value of x. Whatever is your output, that same value you will put in your inverse function and get the input. Is that clear? Solve one sum. You are given f of x is 3x minus 4 and you are supposed to find f inverse of 11. So first, as we said, first step, y is equal to 3x minus 4. Next, swap x and y. So you will get x is equal to 3y minus 4. Then making y the subject. Here you have x plus 4 by 3. So you will say your f inverse x is x plus 4 upon 3. So in such a case, first if you are given f of x, find its inverse and then the value which you are asked to find out, you substitute. You want to find out f of inverse of 11. So you substitute this x with this 11. So f of inverse of 11 is 11 plus 4 by 3, which will give you 5. Now I'm displaying some PPTs where some sums are given and I want you all to solve those sums.